What do we have at the foundation? Justice, Libra energy at the foundation of the reading. Leading up to this reading, the download I received was that there was some individuals that were given more than enough time to do the right thing by you, but instead they chose to go in harder. It's as if they've been using gaslighting tactics as a means to get inside your head, mess with your wiring, so to speak, to make you feel like what they did to you never happened, or to rewrite the narrative around what really took place. In other words, they decided to double down. But now, this season that we are heading into, you are being positioned to deliver these individuals their karma by way of some sort of creation. For some of you, a story. But whatever it is, the divine is allowing you, the divine is guiding you, the divine is supporting you, clearing the path, paving a path for you in order to be able to accomplish this without any resistance. I feel that a lot of you have been taking the high road and not fighting back, but rather just focusing on the path ahead, walking in complete faith with the knowing that divine justice will unfold for you. And sure enough, here it is, showing up right at the foundation of the reading. It's universal law that the scales must tip, and there's no one that can stop this from happening. Don't let them tell you that it never happened, and or don't let them tell you that it happened differently from the way you remember it taking place. Now, whatever it is going to vary. It's going to be different for all of you. I'm picking up on so many different storylines here, but the overall energy is relatively similar. It's situations like these, readings like these, that we can see how we're truly not alone, that there's thousands of other people out there going through similar situations to you. Though the subjects and the actions that were taken against you are going to be different, there's a sense that there's a huge collective of you fighting the same kind of war. What do we have at the sacral, please? Perfect. Hierophant. Taurus energy at the sacral. Followed everything I just said, because now we are seeing the divine coming through in the energy in your favor. But all of this support that you are beginning to receive is because of your dedication, is because of your faith, is because no matter what weapons were formed against you, you still kept pushing forward. I was also getting a lot of downloads regarding visual manifestation leading up to the reading, and this Hierophant is reinforcing that particular download because, as you can see here, there's two individuals here. They look like they're performing some sort of ceremony here behind the Hierophant. Now, what I feel is taking place has to do with this path that's being cleared for you. Because of your dedication, because of your focus, because you haven't even faltered on your path, everything is being made available to you. In fact, I feel that a lot of you are in the 11th hour from pulling through some sort of major manifestation that you've been working on for quite some time. A lot of you could have been grinding away for months, even years. And now you are going to start seeing the results of all of your hard work. Now is the perfect time to feel the energy of that manifestation all around you. Fantasize that you are already living that life. If the manifestation involves another individual, pretend as if you are having a conversation with that person, that you're already living that life. As long as your manifestation is in alignment with your highest good, and the highest good of all, this will come to completion inside your current reality. You see, manifestation, timeline jumping, these two things really work in tandem because timeline jumping is really just you transmitting your conscious awareness into a more favorable version of yourself, right? There's countless different timelines of different versions of ourself, and these different versions of ourself are based on the steps we take in the here and now. You can move one way or you can move the other. But make no mistake, each one of those directions aligns you with the most optimal version of yourself, the most optimal circumstances, or rather the most optimal life, let's just say. And visual manifestation is a supporting tool for you to feel the energy of that more optimal timeline. You're essentially fantasizing about yourself in that space. Now, if you are living your life in this current moment in accordance with the divine's will for your life, and we all know, okay? Sometimes people come to me and they say, I don't know why I can't pull this through. I don't know why I feel so blocked. And then we start digging a little deeper, and there's things in their life that are right in front of their face. But for some reason, they can't quite put two and two together. That's what's standing in front of them. But our reality has been constructed in a way that makes it very difficult to see some of that stuff sometimes, right? Things that are right underneath our nose that are completely blocking us from something. Maybe we make up an excuse for that thing or that person. That's usually the most likely thing that people deal with, is an individual in their life that's holding them back from becoming the most optimal version of themselves. So it's very important that for those of you that are feeling blocked, just take a step back, okay? And scan your environment, so to speak. Look at all the finer details. Just like we have this supportive force that is constantly working in our favor to try and help us align with our highest good, that highest timeline, there's also a force that is working against us. Unfortunately, the reality we live in, it's much easier to see where the force that is working against us exists in our lives. It's everywhere. That's the resistance. It's like a dark force, let's just say. And it's hidden in plain sight, right? Just like I said, it's right underneath our noses. So this is why you need to have regular check-ins, regular reviews of your environment, your circumstances. Check in to make sure that you haven't lost yourself somewhere along the way. And hold yourself accountable. I mean, that's really the key, is holding yourself accountable. Don't allow yourself to not see what's holding yourself back. And that's a weird thing to say, right? But this is very easy to do. Every moment of every day is programming our mind into believing certain things. There's very much this mind war that is taking place all around us on a global level and our own individual lives. It's much different than an all-out physical battle. It's mental, it's spiritual. And it's much harder in the sense because we don't really know what we're dealing with. There's principalities at play here as well. What do we have at the solar plexus, please? Strength. Leo energy at the solar plexus. Perfect. Strength is all about self-discipline, confidence, energy of fortitude. The past few weeks in the individual zodiac readings, I've been noticing a theme where everybody was feeling a little bit held back or feeling like they were facing a setback. But the message in these particular readings was telling us that it was the dip, right? It was the fall before the rise that we were feeling. It's that sort of lingering self-doubt that a lot of us have been fighting to overcome that shows up in the 11th hour right before we're able to push through and have this rise, however that may be shown up for you. But now, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, is a sense that we've made it through the storm. Now we're on the other side. Now it's time to run this final lap and push through to the other side. In other words, charge is what I just heard very clearly. There's nothing standing in your way. Or rather, you won't notice if there is something in your way because you're going to barrel right over it, which is telling me that there's nothing that can stop this from taking place now. Switch decks. What do we have at the heart, please? Hangman, Pisces energy at the heart. There's been some sort of perspective shift, which is allowing for this breakthrough to take place. And it's coming out right at the heart chakra. So there's a lot of releasing. I feel that a lot of you are letting go of people, situations, circumstances. Maybe it's environmental as well. Maybe it's geographical. There's many different ways this is going to show up. And I feel that this opposing force, right, these individuals that had more than enough time to do the right thing by you, are preparing themselves for the worst. They can already feel the impact of what's coming their way. And this is all unfolding like this because of the way you've been moving. It's like these individuals have been trying to trigger you, trying to knock you off your path, trying to get you to engage them. They wanted you to feel like a victim. They just wanted you to give up on yourself. A lot of these people felt empowered with the mere thought that they were able to come against you the way they did. But it's all fallen apart at the seams. A lot of these people are scattering. They don't know what to do. They just don't even know how to approach the situation anymore. So all they're left with is this energy of doubling down, which is really just going to position themselves to expose themselves. I feel a lot of you have gotten to a point as well where whatever it is you may do, People look up to you. You're respected. People know the value of your spirit. And what these individuals are being faced with now is that by some sort of off chance, people will believe them over you, which is just not going to happen. Because I feel that you have built some sort of foundation for yourself that is based on your integrity, that is based on your hard work, that is based on your empathy, your compassion, your love for humanity and life. Where you go, the grass grows. Where they go, it dies. What do we have at the throat? The star. Aquarius energy at the throat. What's interesting about this energy that I'm picking up for all of you is that not only is there this monumental shift taking place in your own individual lives, but it's in perfect alignment with what we're witnessing globally as well. It's like the whole entire planet is in a tower kind of energy. It's just an energy of complete upheaval. There's this great reorganization preparing to take place all over the world. There's a new world that is very much preparing to be ushered in all of our lives. And a lot of you are going to be positioned to be leaders of this new world. Now, some people, when they hear that, they think, well, what could I possibly be doing that would position me to be a leader in the world? But it doesn't have to be, globally speaking, okay? It could be something that's taking place in your community. It's something that's taking place in your reality. It's just you being put in a position of power somewhere in your everyday waking life. I feel that there's going to be far less focus on the structures that are in place right now, and things are going to be becoming more localized in the years to come. This is where I feel a lot of you are being given the opportunity to shine. There's just countless ways that each one of you can show up in these spaces. And this is really how we can all put ourselves in a position to begin fixing the problems that a lot of us have been dealing with. And focusing on what we can control locally or in our communities, I feel, is the most logical way to help influence change in our lives. The chaos that we see, none of us have any control over. And that's what makes it so difficult to deal with, because there's nothing that we can do. And what's interesting is most, if not all of you out there, are looking at all these things taking place around the world in complete disgust. And a lot of you have the answers, right? We all find ourselves in these moments when we're reading the news or watching some news, and we say to ourselves, why don't they just do this and that? Which is usually the answer to the problem. But I feel that enough of us have become aware enough now to understand that they really don't want to solve the problems. It's orchestrated, right? It's that way on purpose. As hard as that is to accept, it's really always been that way, going back hundreds of years. It just seems so much worse now because we live in a modern society, but it's unsustainable. And we all know that. And this is why we have this energy coming through for all of you. And as cliche as it sounds, we're all being called in some capacity in our communities, in our own lives, to step up and start implementing some sort of change. Obviously you start with yourself, because there's no use focusing on what you can't control until you've taken control over your own life. But don't let anybody make you think or feel that there's no way out, that these things are final, because they're not. They just want to make you feel like there's no way out, because of what will happen when all of you stand up. The star is how all of you are coming up. Energy of hope. Energy of being in the spotlight, but in the spotlight of your reality, right? I've been picking up a lot of energy, a lot of messages surrounding individuals who are building communities of people that grow food, things like farmers markets, different kinds of bartering systems. Oh, I just got a lot of ringing in my ear when I said that. These things are sustainable. So if we're able to implement these kinds of grassroots, localized support groups with your neighbors, with your communities, then when the other systems that have been put in place that we don't have control over collapse, we always have something to fall back on. This is very, very important right now. It's never been so important. Self-sustainability should be should be the number one thing on every single person's mind right now. Just start somewhere. You can never go wrong with having a self-sustainable mindset. And that sounds like a wild thing to say, right? It almost seems like it should just be built in. But that's just it. They want you to just rely on them, right? They want you to come to them for all your needs, all your wants, because they want ultimate control over everything and everyone. And not only is this something that we can see very much globally, if you can't recognize this, and this is the way the world is, then I don't know what to tell you, okay? But a lot of you, if not all of you, have also dealt with this in some capacity in your own individual lives. It's like a virus that's just been running through the collective. You know, a lot of us have been dealing with these sort of dynamics with our families. It's a sickness. It's a spiritual sickness. You know, I personally call it narcissism, right? Because when you start to break down the psychology of these people, you begin to realize that these behavioral patterns that they're utilizing fall under that umbrella of narcissism, the gaslighting being their greatest weapon. If all else fails, then they just try to convince you that it never happened. What do we have at the third eye? There it is, the Tower. We spoke this card into existence. I just mentioned that the entire world is going through a Tower kind of energy, a complete upheaval, a reorganization, a restructuring. The old system, the old way of doing things, by all accounts, it's already crumbled. And the reason why the world is in such chaos at the moment is because we're all being forced to accept a new kind of way of doing things that we had no say in the constructing of. In fact, it's like it was built when we weren't even looking, right? It was all built when we were distracted, when we were asleep. But now that sleeping giant, all of us, has woken up. I mean, it's very easy to see how our entire reality is just bombarding us with distraction to keep us from seeing what's really taking place. It's like they're constructing something right underneath our feet. This Tower, Mars, Aries, Scorpio energy is the most destructive energy in the tarot. It's an energy of a sudden change. I mean, there's really two options here. You can accept this, submit to this, bow down to this, or you can reject it. But when you reject it, this is when you have to implement the things that we've already mentioned in this reading, the things that have to do with you focusing on things locally, communally. This is going to require that everybody takes action, that everybody takes responsibility here. Don't sit around and wait for anybody to save you, because that's where they want you. That's where you're most vulnerable, because when you're doing this, you're not actually putting the focus self-sustainability and ensuring your future. Do not put that power in the hands of anyone. You are setting yourself up for complete disaster. And especially if you have children, it's your responsibility to not do that. The Tower is an energy of complete oppression. The energy that I have on this table right now is speaking about a kind of uprising. It's speaking about an energy of self-empowerment. It suggests that we are approaching a timeline of monumental change. These visual manifestations that a lot of you have been focused on, that you have been working on, are on the same timeline as this. Well, it's a global shift. It's as if your visual manifestations, your focus on your path has been leading us to the global shift. Isn't that interesting? It's like the more focused you've become on your path, the more the world around us is crumbling. I remember when I first had an idea of that. The 2 or 3 years leading up to the pandemic, I was going through massive spiritual awakenings in my life, just really coming to terms with the reality of my situation, my family, and the lie that I had been living up until that point, and going through the very painful process of accepting the truth of my own personal reality, which is just another way of speaking about the awakening process, right? As we know, it's not fun, it's not pretty, it's not peaceful at all, it's very painful, it's very violent, but it's very necessary. And as we approached the pandemic of 2020, I was in full awakening mode. I was wide awake to my reality and ready to face it head on. And sure enough, the world around me was crumbling. And I wasn't the only one who felt this way or was going through this. I'm sure there's thousands of you out there right now listening to this that were also going through awakenings around the same time. So going back to what I said, it's very interesting how our awakenings align with things that are taking place globally. Really says it all. And I feel that where we're going right now represents another level in the game, right? As we know, awakenings are perpetual. We never reach the end because evolution in and of itself is never ending. And we are just pieces of evolution, so we're always evolving. And this is exactly what I'm getting here. It's like it happens in stages. We're seeing what we're heading towards. But the ultimate goal here is complete freedom. This is what all of this suggests. Being self-sustainable, taking charge on a local level, focusing on the path ahead, all of these things. This is where we're heading. And all of these things fall under the umbrella of an abundant mindset. Imagine that, right? The complete opposite of what we're being force-fed. See, not being self-sustainable, not being in complete control over your life, your reality, and your circumstances falls under the umbrella of poverty. Poverty mindset, lack mindset. Lack. You're always looking outside of yourself for support. This is what we all need to leave behind. It's not sustainable. You need to be in full control. Don't let anybody take that away from you. What do we have at the crown, please? Strength again. Perfect. There's an energy here of overcoming fear. See, these two strength cards are different, right? It's like in this one, it's like she's trying to close the jaws of the lion. And here, she's loving on the lion, right? It really speaks about embracing your fear. It speaks about having the courage and enough self-love, right? It all comes down to self-love, all of this. And love of life, love of humanity, love for those who come after us, right? Again, evolution. See, I've never actually said this before, but much like an abundant mindset, I just heard very clearly an evolutionary mindset. This is the understanding that we all carry an evolutionary torch in each one of our own individual lives. So with that knowing, what are you going to do about it, right? How are you going to move? You know, this strength card here is reinforcing everything we're saying here because it's an energy of fortitude. Absolutely zero fear. Because there's this sense of taking control over what you can control. And then I have justice, the Hierophant, and judgment all on the bottom, right? Justice, Hierophant, and then judgment. Awakening, rebirth, wake-up call, right? And of course, judgment. Switch decks. And then on the bottom of this deck, I have the Tower. Visago, promoter of discord, war, arguments, and falsehood. See, that speaks about this opposing force, right? That system of control. Again, whether it's individual or globally, it's all the same. It's very easy for us to see now, and I always speak about this, how a lot of the events that are unfolding in our individual lives are showing up in some way, shape, or form on a global level, right? Goes back to what I said about this kind of destruction unfolding all around us as we're going through this awakening process. It's as if you're all having a shift in perception and the world around you is falling apart. And this reinforces the matrix theory, which is suggesting that there's a kind of simulation around us. Now, it's speaking metaphorically, of course, but it's not hard to see that, right? You literally have a shift in perception. You start to see the world for what it really is. You go through the awakening process, and then sure enough, it's all falling apart. It's like a glitch in the matrix. What do we have at the foundation? Knight of Pentacles, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn energy at the foundation of the reading. I just heard there's going to be a lot of people that get folded up in the book binding. And this is really that energy, right? The Knight of Pentacles. These are people that don't want to take control over their own lives, that don't want to be self-sustainable, that don't want to wake up to the reality of our situation and see things for what they really are. And of course, there's always going to be people like this. But I feel that this shift that we're going through right now, there's going to be a lot more. Right now, I'm thinking about the rapture, right? And if you think about the rapture as a kind of example of all of us who are ready to see the truth being lifted, elevated to a new timeline, it makes perfect sense. And then there's obviously a lot of people that are left behind. The Knight of Pentacles, those that are left behind, those that don't want to accept the truth. This is a very lazy, self-serving, stubborn energy that's completely resistant of any sort of compromise, completely set in their way, right? And notice how it's like this is it's kind of like a weight, right? It's almost as if, well, they don't have any legs. It just gives me this energy of, I don't know, they're just stuck. They don't take action. I mean, it has a focus there on north, south, east, and west, right? So it's almost as if this energy is only able to move in 4 different directions, right? It just feels very limited, very boxed in. What do we have at the sacral? Queen of Cups, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces energy, Phoenix. Further reiterating what I'm speaking about here in regards to this energy. This Queen of Cups is an energy of codependency. Energy that's completely inefficient, lacking the confidence to step into their power, to step into this kind of power here, right? You know, the energy on this table is very much like a revolution. It's like the energy of an uprising. But it's much deeper than just a bunch of people gathering together and storming the gates, so to speak. There's more of a focus here, again, on putting all of that energy and time and focus into what you can control, locally speaking. Because we're at a point, I don't think there's any person out there that can deny this, where uprisings, revolutions, it's just too late for all of that. Because, like I mentioned, they've been building all of this right underneath our feet while we were too distracted to try and stop them. So the system is already there. They're just trying to fire it up now. What do we have? The solar plexus, please. 7 of Swords, Andromalius, Aquarius energy at the solar plexus. And this is an energy of breaking free, accepting the reality of our situation and not trying to escape that. When I think back to the years leading up to when I went through my awakening a couple years before the pandemic, I'm shocked at how much effort I put into trying to escape what the divine was telling me. But the reason why I didn't want to accept what I was feeling intuitively was because of my environment. I very much had an influence of people around me that were telling me that what I was feeling was incorrect. I was having these visions of where I'm at now, of where the world is at now. And nobody supported any of this because, unfortunately for them, there's also a lot of exposure attached to who some of these people turned out to be in my own individual life. But when I think back to that time, I can't help but think about how powerful that force was to keep me in that space for as long as it did. You know, this is going to be something that, again, shows up differently for all of you. For me, it was behavioral patterns and toxic family, right? People that just really didn't have my highest good at all in mind. And for what it's worth, I mean, I don't talk to any of these people anymore. They haven't been in my life for years. You know, it's like I haven't spoken to any of these people since I literally launched this YouTube channel, which was in December of 2020. That's when I uploaded my first video. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the way I channel through truth for all of us here implicates a lot of those people, because a lot of the stuff that you have all dealt with in your own individual lives is stuff that I've had to deal with too. So they can't hide from it. So how could they ever face me, right? They're all cowards. This is what I've personally come to terms with in my own life, in my own set of circumstances. So in saying all that, for those of you out there that are just now beginning on this path, right? I know there's a whole bunch of you that are just beginning this awakening process. There's always going to be a new group of individuals that are just stepping onto this path. You really need to pay attention to what you're feeling intuitively, okay? Because what you're going to find is, in the years to come, you're going to think back to these moments now and realize that everything you were feeling was correct. So further reiterating what I said about don't let them tell you it never happened. Don't let them tell you that what you're thinking is wrong. Don't let them tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. What do we have at the heart, please? Bifrons, spiritual troubles, the hangman. So we have the hangman stacked with the hangman. Wow, Pisces energy. That's just spiritual troubles right there as well. Very interesting. This is reinforcing what I'm saying here, because this is an energy of somebody who, or groups of people that have ulterior motives, right? It's the energy of traitors. And it says spiritual troubles. So it's confirming what I said about them trying to tell you that you're not perceiving things correctly, that your perception's off, that you don't have a connection with the divine, with spirit, with source, with God. But let me tell you, as somebody who is advocating for all of you, a lot of these things that we have been told aren't real. A lot of these things that we've been told are just fantasy, part of our imagination. A lot of these things that we've been told we can never access, or that isn't for us. Well, most, if not all of those things, just really depends on who you are and what your own set of circumstances are. But a lot of those things are actually real. That's actually the timeline you're supposed to be aligning with. That's what I've experienced anyway. Okay? And this hangman here is confirming that, because it's like, here you are having a different perspective. You're like, oh, B, right? They're all a bunch of liars. Why are they trying to keep me from this? Why are they trying to keep me from my ultimate happiness? And this is when you come to terms with the fact that there's some sort of dark, sinister force that is also working against our highest good. And unfortunately, a lot of those people that were in your life have submitted to it, because it provides them with something that they don't have the confidence to provide themselves with, period. And then we have Ariel, perception and revelation, which is the Knight of Cups. Okay, so the Knight of Cups is really speaking about your imagination, your intuition, right? You know, a lot of the things that I used to fantasize about when I was a little kid, a lot of the things that my imagination would construct are actually things that I'm accessing now. A lot of you were surrounded by people that tried to suppress this, right? It's like they saw something different in you. They saw something almost otherworldly or divine about you. And they thought to themselves, oh no, we can't allow this. Lord Lucifer will be very upset if we allow this one to be set free inside the collective and beam their light everywhere they go. We must suppress this. We must bring the darkness into this child's life. And I know, that sounds wild, but it's true. And a lot of you wouldn't even be here right now listening to my reading or a lot of other people's readings unless you didn't feel the exact same way, that you have been kept from something, that truths have been hidden from you, that you have been mainlined lies. And again, we can see how it's happening in your own individual life and globally. It's all connected. As above, so below. The micro to the macro. Okay? What do we have at the throat? 3 of Swords. Libra energy. The quickly forgiving God. Love and submission. Cures illness. Influences paternal love. Gives long life. So what this is really speaking about is the heartbreak and pain that you've had to endure on your path being healed. And it's right underneath this star. So there's something here about communication. It's at the throat chakra. Okay, now this can go back to what I said in regards to some of you needing to speak some sort of truth or tell your story, right? Engaging in something that's very cathartic for you. It's like you need to get something out of you, but doing it in a creative way. And for a lot of you, this is what you've been blessed with. This is what you've been gifted with. Because some of you have things inside of you that can help others, right? There's so many different ways that you can go about implementing this into your life. You know, like I mentioned here, I've made it my life's mission to advocate for other individuals that feel like they're alone in the world. Individuals that have gone through the same or similar things that I have. Something like this, okay? But there's also something different about the way you're going to do this. There's something very creative about it, is what I'm getting here. Really, sky's the limit, okay? Because this Three of Swords, I mean, it's somebody who's very empowered, right? Gives sword in the stone kind of vibes. It's like you use this outlet in a cathartic way to help release the pain of what you've endured on your path. Perfect. You know, a healer, this is a term we hear all the time, is just somebody who is able to assist others or heal others with what they have healed within themselves at their current point on their journey, right? You don't need to be completely healed in every aspect of your life to be a healer. You just need to be healed from what you're teaching others to heal themselves from, okay? And I also have Justice on the bottom of this deck. So that's very much in the energy, right? The tipping of the scales. What do we have at the third eye, please? Oh, perfect. Death, Scorpio energy. Mumia, God, the end of the universe. Endings and rebirth, influences health and longevity. So the Death card is all about rebirth. This is representing a complete transformation. It's also the energy of the phoenix rising out of the ashes. A death to the old and the beginning of something new. And it's right underneath this tower. So confirming everything I'm saying, right? While this destruction is taking place, you are engaged in building a new foundation in your own life that has an influence of self-sustainability around it. And again, there's just so many different ways that can show up. Okay, so use your imagination there. I'm a firm believer that most people know what they need to do, okay? Again, it's staring you right in the face, but it's like you can't see it, you know, and that's why you need to just take a step back, right? Have that perspective shift, right? It's like right here, he's hanging upside down. He's like, oh, well, I didn't see it like that before. I just hang upside down and now I can see everything for what it really is. A lot of you have been asking for a sign, asking for guidance. You've been putting prayers up. And these things you've been asking for have showed up. But you're sitting around wondering where they are. And this was something that came through, I think, came through in the Taurus reading, and I think a little bit in the Aquarius reading too. Okay? And look, I think we all experience this because we're so used to things being a certain way that when the change shows up, it's almost like a mirage, you know, in the desert, right? We can't tell if it's really there or it's really arrived. There's almost like this shock to the system. So just pay attention, okay? Because most of what a lot of you have been asking for is already here, you know, and I quite often mention that when you ask for things, especially if it's things that are material, it may come in the form of a download. It may come in the form of instructions, things that you need to do to be able to pull that through. It's like the divine saying, hey, we got your prayer, but based on circumstance and just the way things are, we're going to give you instructions on how you are actually going to go out into your waking life and pull that through for yourself, okay? So you need to be creative here, and you also need to pay attention to your dreams and your intuition. There's a lot of messages coming through for people right now, okay? What do we have at the crown, please? Close us out. Queen of Wands, Elamia, the hidden god. That really reinforces what I just said. Divine power guards against mental troubles. Okay, so what it says there about the hidden god, that's speaking about what I mentioned in regards to these things having already arrived, right? But it's like it's hidden. It's not so obvious to you. You have to get creative. It's like you have to decode something, whether it's an intuitive hit, whether it's a dream, whether it's a download you've received, whether it's a feeling that you have to go somewhere. These are all the things that are going to help you turn around whatever resistance you may be dealing with in your life, right? It's like the divine showing you some sort of a secret passage out of your current set of circumstances. And the Queen of Wands, this is an energy that's very enthusiastic, very determined, and very confident. Now is not a time to be weak. Now is a time to be strong. We literally have 2 strength cards on this table right now. But in saying all that, what I have on this table is nothing but a very positive outcome that is showing up for you here. But it takes action on your part for this to begin unfolding in your life because of your free will. You have to meet the divine halfway. So whatever it is you are dealing with in your own particular life, just know that there is a way out of this. There is a passage door opening up that leads you to this new timeline, but you have to want it. So whatever this represents for you, go and get it because it's waiting for you. And we're all relying on you. We're all relying on each other because remember, not only is this happening in our own individual lives, but this is representing a global shift as well. And we all play an incremental role in allowing this to happen successfully. This is the message I have available to you, depending on where you are on this timeline, should you choose to accept. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like a personal reading, you can find all of my contact details in the description below this video. And thank you for your donations. Take care.